Previously on the Escape Pod cast.
Next week, ladies and gentlemen, the episode that even we thought would never happen. Capital Games comes aboard the ship and gets into the Escape Pod.
Indeed they do. The one, the only, CG Carrie. She's going to be strapping herself into a pod. She's going to be sitting down to have a chat to us. And will Paul Anthony be able to control his excitement as we talk about the brand new Territory Battle map right here?
Wait, Scotty, I'm hear someone coming down the hallway right now.
Yeah? I can hear it too.
Scotty, push the button before she gets away.
Okay, don't mind if I do.
Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Nev, coming to you from a ranch somewhere in Illinois. This episode of the Escape Pod cast was recorded in front of a live studio audience. Actually, it was recorded earlier in the week, but it's a special episode, so we hope you'll understand. Oh, and CG Carrie, I do hope you're taking good care of Pom Pom Carrie.
One is a territory war specialist from Australia. The other is a territory battle tactician from the US. Together, there are no signs of intelligent life on board. But with over a combined 45 years of entertainment under their belts, the one thing we are sure of is that you will be entertained. The CFH Network presents the Escape Pod cast, a weekly show about the mobile game Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. Live from the network studios of Yavin 4, here are your hosts, Scotty McLaren and Paul Anthony.
Coming up on this week's edition of the Escape Pod cast, we talk title update 16, coinciding with our 16th episode. Coincidence? I think not. We find out about some new characters with some new unique abilities. The Territory Battle of Geonosis is revealed. What lies in store for us within the arena? And we release CG Carrie from the brig after she was caught sneaking onto our ship to sit down and talk all these things and more. Normally, I would say breaking news, and if it happens, but ladies and gentlemen, this is the breaking news this week on the Escape Pod cast.
Receiving incoming transmission. Receiving incoming transmission. Receiving incoming transmission.
Ah, yes, and welcome along to the Escape Pod cast. And Paul, we've stowed her away. I think we can now ungag her, because she is now in the podcast with us. And we can still tie her up, though, because we've got lots of pressing questions that we need to find out.
Oh, my God.
I mean, welcome, Carrie.
It's dark in there.
Hello, Carrie. You've been unleashed in the Escape Pod. Welcome.
Where am I?
Now, look, it's great to have you on board the Escape Pod. Hang on, I'll just turn this light on right here. There we go. Good. Now I can see you. Excellent. So, Carrie, we've got lots and lots of pressing questions for you that we need to talk to you about. And first things first, you've introduced just recently one of my favourite characters into the game. Thank you for that. She is, of course, my queen. As they say in that Ugandan Knuckles, do you know the way? She is my queen. Lovely Padme. You've released her. And now you've released my second favourite character, Shark T. You are on fire.
You're welcome. I did it for you. No, actually, I mean, to be honest, like it's awesome. I'm stoked that we finally got Padme in the game. And you didn't ask this question. I'm just like volunteer an answer to a question because it came up a lot. Is the conversation that we had around which version of Padme to release, specifically whether or not to do midriff version. And so that was something that we were like, there was a lot of talking about. And it was exciting. And I think that we're still like lots of Padme and lots of Clone Wars stuff to go. But I'm glad that we did this version first.
Oh, so am I. Midriff Padme still to come by the sounds of things.
I would say not as a playable character. I'd say that like one of the things we were looking into is like whether or not we could do it like as a not as the playable version, but maybe like an unlockable PvE opponent, or
Ooh.
So that's that. Like we did a version of her like that, but then when it came to the player character, we were like, we never ever show any characters in any kind of battle worn version, and so it was simple.
Yeah, nice. Well, Shark T is my second favorite character, as I mentioned, and I'm so glad that we've got another Jedi that's going to be coming to the game. Now, look, she's going to be someone that's going to be certainly beefing up the clones from what we understand.
Yeah, and it's been interesting, this approach that we're doing with Clone Wars, because there's a piece of this, you can read between the lines here. When we first kind of did the rework of Jedi Anakin, obviously we didn't release his Zeta because it was the synergy with Padme, and we hadn't announced Padme yet. And everybody was like, how could you not give him a Zeta? And so sometimes when we're talking about these characters that are part of like docking synergies, we'll say, or as we say internally, we call it the nesting dolls, then sometimes it might look like not everything is totally done. So with that being said, she's absolutely going to beef up the existing clone troopers, and she's going to beef up the Galactic Republic Jedi right now. And yeah, I think she's badass too. Why is she your favorite character out of curiosity, or second favorite?
Oh, well, look, I'll tell you why. Because, she's just someone that just, she just doesn't take garbage from anyone, like Padme. The two of them are just unreal together. And especially, she sits on the Jedi Council. She's someone that just, in the Clone Wars cartoon, I just got drawn to her because, hey, I'm a bit like Urza. I'm a bit of a sucker for, those sorts of characters like
Yeah, and speaking of the cartoon, that's actually, back to the question you didn't ask about Mistress Padme. Another reason the designer who worked on the Padme kit was very adamant that he had taken a lot of inspiration from the cartoon, the Clone Wars, and she isn't midriff version in that. So it was like a combination of both of those things that is related. And yeah, I agree. They're both badasses.
There we go. Now the thing that I love about Shark T is that she gains turn meter when the enemies deal damage to her, making her hard to focus down on early. And she even commands allies, which is, easy to play, doing assists, but definitely hard to master. 6 of one, half dozen of the other sometimes when it comes to calling assists. People know that with Jolie Bindu, or Findu as we like to call him, after the Padme event. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
What was the thoughts behind her doing those abilities?
Well, the designers, and I never want to take credit for the thought that goes behind into it, and so that's why we tried to start doing these developer insights type interviews with the designers that work on these kits. They always start with the material, and they start very kind of clearly at like, what is it about this character? And so they often start with stuff that like, not to be like cheesy, but like inspiration words, right? In fact, I think for Shark T, they're like, she's an inspiring leader. She's got heightened reflexes. What is it about her that makes her do those things? And the kids kind of evolve organically from that. And so I think for her in particular, I think that they really kind of started at that level of like, what is it about her in the fiction? And then they went straight into the like, okay, clearly she's a clone, like works well with clone troopers. Clearly she works well with Galactic Republic. And she's not the one necessarily kind of doing it herself, but she's the one kind of bringing them all to action. And then yeah, it's taking those mechanics, and some of the characters that we're working on right now have entirely new mechanics that they're playing with, and that's what I love about this design team, is that they're always trying to think of like new, different kind of tweaks to them to make each character feel differently.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we've got some more. Yeah, that is awesome, Scotty. And we've got some more characters that we're going to be talking about here. But one of the things that was sent to us about all of this when they were telling us about Shark T is that she's got a niche Geonosis light side territory battle position. Are you able to talk about that right now?
Yeah, sure. I can talk about that, because I think one of the kind of keys to how we do stuff, right, is that we're, like I said, I mentioned nesting doll earlier. It's kind of setting up the future of things, right? And so we're releasing the dark side right now. And the dark side territory battle is going to rely on the separatist droids. And if you look at the way in
Yes.
which we roadmap, yeah, I know. I'm excited too. If you look at the way in which we roadmap, we actually kind of hit these beats where there's a kind of evolving value to those characters that in some ways corresponds with those characters moving from, in some cases, marquees or legendaries, but onto the table. And as people get them over time, maybe the second or third return of a legendary or hero's journey, that there is a new kind of renewed value for them. So if you choose not to get Shakti now, there will be more value to her later, as I'm sure you can imagine. For now, she's just a character that you can start working on if you love her and you're working in Clone Wars.
Well, like for me, Carrie, I've got to say that, I'll be working on her immediately. I love the character. And here's a little bit of lore for all you people that are listening, because if you're thinking, oh, well, maybe she may not work with my clone characters. Well, she was actually approached by 2 members of Domino Squad who are in the game, which are Fives and Echo, and they actually asked Shakti to transfer to another squad. Now, she disapproved of their plea, and she told them that when in battle, they should fight as a group, not as individuals, and with that, T allowed Domino Squad to face one more challenge. This is when they were trying to get into the crew of being the next clone troopers, and Domino Squad successfully completed it. T graduated them to Grand Army of the Republic as well. So I reckon that we might see some synergies here between Fives and Echo. Carrie, just a quick thing that I'm thinking.
You clearly know more about the Clone Wars than I do, and that's not to make everyone feel like, oh, I'm so sad that Carrie doesn't know everything about the Star Wars universe. I have my specialties, and I will say that I am learning a lot about the Clone Wars as we're working into this. It may be obvious or apparent that the Old Republic and the original trilogy are things that I feel very passionately about, but a lot of our designers, in fact, most of our designers kind of grew up in the era of the Clone Wars. And so I think they're just as excited as a lot of the players, and it sounds like you are, for those synergies. And did you notice how I totally deflected your actual question? That was on purpose. All that light side stuff is probably a conversation for another podcast.
Oh, I like it.
Oh!
I like it. Hey, look, something else that we need to talk about is, with getting this character. I mean, she's certainly someone that I want. In fact, Carrie, while we're at it, actually, if you just give me a second, because, as I told you, she is my second favorite character in the game. Here's some details. 40179541. That's my credit card. You can have that. Take my money now.
Well, now, Carrie, how are we going to get Scotty's money? I mean, we are recording. I will admit, we are recording this on Sunday, so this information might already be out there. Is she a Marquis? Is she a Galactic Chase? Are we seeing the first character Galactic Chase, or is this a standard Marquis?
It's a standard Marquis at the moment. And in fact, she's kind of the first Marquis in a little while. And so we said last year, and we talked about this a lot, we did way too many Marquis at the beginning of last year. There was a lot of fatigue around that. And we moved into, more legendaries and hero's journey type things. And so, we were kind of trying to move away from that and explore with Galactic Chase and things like that. But at the end of the day, we will revisit some of the original ones, and she's a Marquis. And I'll say, for now, because I always feel like I need to caveat everything if there's some last minute, actually, let's change it. But I think all plans are for her to be a Marquis. Okay,
excellent. That's good. Now, moving on, Paul, because I wanted to mention too that there are another 2 characters that are coming to the game. And Carrie, am I right in thinking that these guys are going to be a part of the Territory Battle rewards? There's going to be 2 characters for this as rewards for the Territory Battle?
You are absolutely right. So one of them is going to be the kind of Captain Han Solo equivalent from the Hoth battle, and the other one's the Rolo equivalent. And so these are the 2 characters that kind of live in the requirement phase.
Wow, that's awesome. Now, one of them is Wat Tambor. Now, guys, I'm not sure if you've, know this, but Wat Tambor, he was actually a part of the Techno Union. He was a separatist as well, which is always good. And he actually earned himself a seat on the Separatist Council during the Clone Wars. And Tambor's dealings with the Separatists were exposed by the Republic infiltration team, which consisted of Rex, Clone Force 99, and Jedi Knight Anakin Skywalker. I got a funny feeling that this might be part of the counter team to Padme, perhaps.
I don't know. Maybe. I'm actually super excited about Wat Tambor, and it's funny too because we love Star Wars. I mean, we love Star Wars, and on the team, we have fun with it sometimes too. And maybe sometimes when we're trying to have fun and people don't want to have fun, it doesn't come across very well. But I think in the recent Q&A there was something where CG Top Hat Nick, who's the live producer, he answered a question with what. And he was trying to hint at Wat Tambor, and like I don't think anyone picked up on it. I haven't been scooping around to see if they had. But
no one has.
Probably not. That the designer who worked on Wat Tambor, Kyle, he has done something I think super cool, and it's this ability that he has where he's basically like distributing tech. And so there's going to be kind of an option between which tech that he distributes to which allies. And like I said before, like they're kind of playing around with this idea of like doing new kinds of strategies and content and new abilities in new ways. And that's super fun. And I love that they do that. It gets very, very difficult for us long term because there's so many of you hammering on the game that you'll figure all kinds of things out. But I think it's worth it in the long run to make them exciting. And so he's going to be super cool.
I like
the way that it was described to us is that this tech that he has will act as mini uniques, essentially, kind of extorting his own team for people that are familiar with current game mechanics. He's arming the separatists.
Yes, exactly. And that feels very like on brand for him. And he's going to be the first dark side non-combatant. And so that's really exciting. And I remember like way back in the day, because I'm a big dark side fan personally. And so I remember sending letters. I was at EA. I was actually working on The Simpsons back then, and I was sending emails to friends of mine who worked on this game right when it launched, being like, "Where are all the dark side healers, guys?" And so I think sometimes, because Star Wars is often a story. Not primarily, but the story is often around the good guys, and they interact with a lot of people. And sometimes it's difficult for us to tell the bad guys' stories as much. And so I'm thrilled that this is going to be, finally the dark side getting a non-combatant that can play around that way.
Well, the thing is, with him being a non-combatant, I can't wait to run into the teams that are C-3PO, Hermit Yoda, and Wat Tambor.
Right. Of course, that will happen.
See, the day that we're recording this is, Carrie, I'm not sure if you knew this, but it's a happy 20th anniversary to the release of the first, The Phantom Menace, when it got released in the cinemas, and a big happy 20th birthday to it too. And the question that I have to ask you is that when CG Top Hat and the guys were, coming up with this character, were they walking around going, "My lord, is that legal? I will make it legal"?
You know what? There is a lot of nerding out that happens in the design rooms, and
good.
I think that, so it is about as not to say that's nerdy, but it's a little bit nerdy. For me, I don't know which one of the dates that I go off of is the digital release. Maybe it was in the US. Is because it's the Phantom Menace was released in theaters the first week of my first job in the games industry. So I just had my 20th anniversary of being in games.
Well done.
And so for me, that's a lot of like what the connection is there. Is I remember it was in the theaters and I was getting a job. And a couple months later, because that job was in Long Island, I bumped into Natalie Portman in a 7-Eleven.
Oh!
Yeah. It was like near her hometown.
Oh, if I was a fly on the wall for that, Carrie. If I was a fly on the wall for that, she's my queen.
Well, to be fair, I didn't say anything because I didn't want to be that person. But I believe for the friend that I was there with said under his breath, "My queen."
Oh, I like it. Well, this character is going to be lots of fun. Wat Tambor, I can't wait to see him in the game. He's kind of going to be like the Darth Hermit Yoda from reading into the kit. And I'm looking forward to this. But the other one that I'm really looking forward to is finally, the Geos, and Poggle the Lesser is no longer going to be the only leader in the Geo team. We've got another Geo which is coming to the game, and that's going to be a part of the Territory Battle character reward as well.
Yeah, so this is a Geonosian Prodalpha, which is a character that we is kind of coming to the universe for the first time in our game, which, I've been able to be a part of a couple of moments like that where we get to sort of define a lot of the Old Republic stuff. Some of the team got to define things or like little areas, flesh them out more than they have been fleshed out in the past. And so the Geonosians are an interesting squad because, as you know, we're playing around with them in the old Territory War special abilities, and we really wanted to do something with them, make them a full squad, without necessarily reworking absolutely every single character in the faction. And so we're bringing a new character, another leader. The Geonosian Brood Alpha is also leveraging some new tech that we're doing as a part of the Territory Battle, which is a summoning tech. And so he's going to summon another unit. And so there's actually a 6th slot, as you know, for when you borrow an ally for some of the game modes from a friend. And he's going to be leveraging that to summon a brute. And so you get kind of 2 characters for the price of 1 with this guy.
Yes. That's awesome, Paul. How good does this sound?
It sounds great. And also from reading the kit, with the assist strategy, and not only this, correct me if I'm wrong here, constant health and protection equalization.
Yeah.
He's the Barris Geonosian.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm afraid of phrasing it that way because I know people feel very strongly about Paris.
Right. But, now, remember, people listening, this is my opinion, not CG's. She's not promising anything. Yeah. I am just giving my opinion like I do every other show.
Well, and to be, I mean, that's exactly how we sell it, right? Like, I don't ever want to be like too cagey when I talk about stuff, but I've learned from the past to be like, that we'll say what our intent is, and then because everyone's really excited, they kind of pick on that piece, and then something happens, right? Like we change or whatever. But for sure, he is absolutely bringing that kind of the health protection. The other component of it is this concept of hive mind, which is this new kind of this is how he's going to level up a lot of the other characters. Some of the Geonosians are getting kind of touched up a little bit, but the big kind of piece here is not only is he bringing someone else to the battle, but he is going to be kind of bringing all of the Geonosians up with this hive mind mechanic.
That is awesome.
Now, if we were to say that the brood summons the brute, right?
Mm-hmm.
If the brood alpha dies, does the brute go first? The brute's sticking around fighting for their alpha.
Yeah, and actually, on the thing that you said earlier about people bringing C-3PO, Hermit Yoda, and Wat Tambor to a battle, if you've brought the Geonosian Brood Alpha and the Brute is left behind, the Brute is technically also going to be kind of in the same bit. So if you kill one member of the other person's team, there may be 4 people on that team who are no longer going to engage you in battle.
Wow. So I'm actually thinking, okay, so he's going to be using Brute. There is another character that uses Brute. I like to delve into these sorts of things, Carrie. You must indulge me for a second. This is me thinking.
I will.
I'm thinking that he might have some, he may just have some synergies with Savage.
That's very interesting. I'm listening attentively as if I am just a consumer and I know nothing.
Being that Savage uses brute force, so I'm actually thinking that this might work. Oh, I like it. That's something I want to test. I want to test that.
Yeah, well, if you test it and you don't see anything, never forget the fact that I may be writing this down right now, and you may see something later. We're always nesting, darling. We're always doing stuff later.
Awesome. I like the sound of that. Well, look, with this character though too, I do like this. He is a tank lead, but for my liking, I mean, adding that extra character too is pretty awesome. But to me, just looking at his own kit though, because that was a surprise. I didn't realize that he was coming as a duo. But looking at his kit though, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Bosk in that he's going to make your Geo teams just that much better. And I like the sound of this because I like my Geos.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's when we go around, we're looking at like when to bring in new characters, when to do reworks, right? And we've been doing a lot more reworks, and it's so hard because people have expectations of what they think the character is supposed to be and what they are currently. And I think that there are definitely characters that we believe, especially the ones we released a long time ago, that are just not up to snuff. And so going back in there and addressing them, meticulously hand by hand as the designers do, is something that we really care about very passionately. I would say that it's always something we want to do with everybody. But in this case, we were like, look, there are a couple of characters that really need to be looked at. Poggle's being looked at. I believe the Geonosian spy is too. But then how do we take this character and really kind of raise it all? Because I maybe to my own detriment, like to often make Starship Troopers references. And so I would kind of like think of this as like putting the hand on the bug and being like, it's afraid, it's like this idea of the bugs. I mean, all of this stuff is kind of related in kind of science fiction, sort of, the origins of that. And so we start very high with like themes and how does it feel and all of that. And then we kind of take it down into the practicality of like what we're going to do to all these characters.
Love it. Hey, your art guys work on this pretty intensively, don't they? I mean, you recently had the guys from the Star Wars show make an appearance over at Capital Games just recently, and they were talking about the previous era, which was the Old Republic era. But the guys in the art department, they work extremely hard, don't they, Carrie?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like, of course I'm going to say that. These guys, I mean, but they really, really care, and again, I think that's sort of the theme that I think of when I think about the success of this game, and is that this is a team where everybody passionately cares about A, the Star Wars, B, their work ethic, and C, this game. Something that's been really awesome for us is that we got this guy that's doing some of the videos that we're doing, the new video treatments, right? And he goes in engine, he goes into Unity, which is what our game is done in, and he's been kind of exploring with our assets and then collaborating with the art team. And so a lot of what the team does is, with the character reworks, with the art, they look at what they're doing and go, how do we push it to the next level? How do we make it better? And then they push each other. And that's what I think is the most exciting thing for me about being on the team, is that everyone cares so much about that.
With all these Geonosians, I know you can't talk about future characters or anything like that, but there are two Clone Wars characters. Well, there's one Rebels character and one Clone Wars character that we need in this game.
Oh, I know where this is going.
As far as other than the Geonosian, the next Geonosian that we need is Click Clack. We need Click Clack and his egg, please.
Okay, I'll put them on the list with all the other characters.
Well, now here's the one. Here's the one that needs to come to the game, and he will be the first neutral. I've talked about this on the show before.
Yeah.
We need Hondo Onaka. Do this for Thaddeus from Going Nerdy. Do this for me from the Escape Pod cast.
Or I guess you could say the new Galaxy's Edge as well. He's one of the central characters there too.
Yeah, and we've... oh man, I have to be careful about what I say. Hondo is also on the list and has been on the list for quite a while. So it's hard, right? I mean, of course it's hard, but like there's so many characters that we want to do still, and figuring it out. Like I think one of the things we decided to do was trend a little bit more towards a theme. And I'm not going to say that it was like a win state for me, that everybody was like, I'm done with the Old Republic, get to something else. But I do want people to feel like we've done justice. And so maybe by the time we get through all the Clone Wars content, you guys will be like, all right, you can take a break for a little bit and come back later.
Now it's not going to be fatigue like KOTOR, is it?
I don't know. I mean, the KOTOR thing for me was, the original intent of it was actually, when I could tell you, because 2 years ago, I wrote a plan that said to bridge us from Solo to Episode 9, we needed a drum beat. This is the way that sort of described it. And so if you look at the beginning of the kind of the seedlings, starting with the Nihilus and the Sith Triumvirate raid, and then you've got the 15th anniversary of, and then we released Bastila and the Old Republic, Lightside Companions. Like all of that, if you look at this, every few months we were doing something Old Republic. It was intended to be like a thread that carried us through. I know why people were fatigued. It was because of how the difficulty and to acquire them ramped up, and I certainly understand some of the frustrations around that. So it's not going to be exactly the same, but there are going to absolutely be a lot of Clone Wars characters coming. And so if people don't love Clone Wars, they will be looking forward to the thing we have planned next.
Oh,
there we go. There we go.
I love you, Carrie. That's awesome.
Before we go to a break, before we go to our break here, this is completely. I know you've mentioned a few characters that you want to see. What characters do you want to see? Taking your papers, putting them aside right now. If Carrie was a consumer and only a consumer, who does Carrie want to see?
I think the number one character would be Jabba the Hutt.
Yes, mine too. I'd love to see Jabba.
I just think it would be super cool. Like as a person who loves kind of when people play around with game mechanics, I think that'd be super cool. It would be challenging, I think, in the constructs that we have because of his size. But we've talked about all kinds of things that we want to do I think we just need to maybe throw some of the rules out the window in terms of like size or scale. I'm not saying like have it be inaccurate, but I'm saying like our game principles where it's like the character must be visible fully on the screen at all times. Like maybe we always have to do that. And so
I've got your answer. And our friend Crumb is going to love this. Have Jabba be the character, but the model be Salacious B. Crumb doing Jabba's bidding.
That's awesome. Yeah. And he is constantly in my face about Crumb, like actually putting Crumb in the game. And I have a plan for that, but I also think that you have a question later. I'm going to pretend like we didn't. I don't know what you're going to ask. Where you're going to ask me about things that we want to do or haven't done yet, or like crazy off the wall modes. And I want you to remember Salacious B. Crumb because I'm going to tell you something then.
Oh, okay.
That's a perfect way to do this. Still to come, we're going to talk about the Geonosis Territory Battle and much more, as you already heard. And there is something that we're going to be doing a giveaway, Carrie. Somebody donated something because of how big this episode is. I want to let you know that I've given you information about this giveaway that somebody donated to help out with the GoFundMe that I'm doing for my wife's medical bills. I cannot wait to reveal that, but that's not till the end of the show.
Coming up in just a moment, Paul, we're going to get into the bit that you really want to get into, man.
This is going to be awesome. The Territory Battle reveal is coming up in just a moment, right on the other side of the Escape Podcast for kids with the Nev. Stick around.
Hi, this is Cyphermaster SB Crumb, and you're listening to the Escape Pod Cast. This show was recorded in front of a live studio audience.
Micaeus Modding Mayhem is the premier remodding service for the game that we all love, Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. With some of the most affordable rates in the industry, Micaeus will rebuild your roster from top to bottom and give you consultation on where to go from there. Micaeus has a 100% satisfaction guarantee and lots of useful additional services, including a full cleanup of your mods, loadout pages, PvP plans, and more. Contact Micaeus today on Discord at all lowercase Micaeus number 0127. That's MIKAYAS number 0127, or at micaeusmods@gmail.com. Micaeus Modding Mayhem, the official remodding service of the Escape Pod Cast.
Like what you hear on the Escape Pod Cast? Want to support Scotty and Paul? Then sign up to be a Patreon. For as low as $2 a month, you can help them launch Escape Pods for months to come. Visit patreon.com/theescapepod to sign up. Support us today.
Hey everyone, it is the heartthrob of the Outer Rim, your boy Urs, and you are listening to the Escape Pod Cast with Paul Anthony and Scotty McLaren. Boys, I think I speak for all of us when I say you are hot, you are red hot.
Back to school. The Escape Pod Cast for kids. It's really cool.
Hello there, boys and girls, and welcome to the Escape Pod Cast for Kids with me, the Nev. Today we're going to talk about Territory Battles, which is one of the main guild events that requires maximum participation and cooperation from you and your guild mates. Now, if you haven't reached level 65 yet, you can't participate in Territory Battles, but that doesn't make my advice any less important, because if you can't play Territory Battles now, you can most certainly get ready for it. Territory Battles take place on an icy planet in the Hoth system. It's the planet shown in the Star Wars movie, The Empire Strikes Back, so you can imagine all the map scenes are covered in snow. Except the fleet battles, of course. No snow in space. There are 2 types of territory battles, light side and dark side. The light side involves you using all the factions from the light side of your roster to defeat the Empire. The dark side involves you using all the dark side factions from your roster to defeat the Rebellion. Each territory battle is the same format, with you battling through 6 phases, with each containing 3 maps that have foes to defeat. Phase 1 only contains 2 maps, which is the game's way of easing you into the battle. Each phase has a time limit of 24 hours, so you have plenty of time to get the victories you need to collect points and stars. The more territory points you score, the faster you collect stars. You and your guild are trying to get 3 stars on each map. The more stars you collect, the greater the reward at the end of the event. Each phase and the maps in those phases will present you with a plethora of different challenges, and with those extra challenges come extra rewards. In each phase, there is a map containing a special mission that requires a specific faction that you can only use to battle the enemy. If you defeat the enemy using the faction selected, you will receive a special reward. The special rewards are separate from the overall rewards you will receive at the end of the event. The special rewards even include new characters. Now, it will take a long time to collect the shards for these characters, but the more people in your guild that complete the special mission, the more shards you will receive. All the other special missions will give you guild currency. Now, the guild event currency will allow you to buy lots of gear for your characters, and also 2 characters only available from the guild event store. Those characters are Hermit Yoda and the Wampa. These characters also take a long time to farm, but are very good additions to your roster. As you progress through each phase of the territory battle, you will encounter harder and harder enemy squads. To help you defeat these squads, you can place characters in platoons. The more you fill the platoons, the bigger your bonus attacks will be when you face off against the enemy squads. Listen to the instructions carefully from your guild leader and officers, as they will tell you which platoons they would like filling. This will give your guild the best chance at getting the most stars. The ultimate goal of territory battles is to achieve a perfect run and get all 48 stars available. This will give you a huge amount of rewards, which will include gear, guild currency, guild event currency, and crystals. Don't worry if your guild isn't scoring high. The territory battle isn't an event that you can clear perfectly right away. It's about making gradual progress. My advice to those of you out there listening, collect the factions for the special missions and make those factions as strong as you can. The extra rewards you get from completing special missions over the course of the event add up to a lot and will let you buy extra shards and gear from the guild event store. This event is all about teamwork. Unlike the raids where you can dive in and blast away, it's very important to follow the instructions from your guild leadership, so be sure to always check your guild chat for last-minute orders. That's all for me this week. Thank you for joining me for Storytime with the Nev on the Escape Pod, Cast for Kids.
Hey there, it's Xylo Takedown from Takedown Games, and you're listening to the Escape Pod Cast.
G'day, this is Scotty McLaren, and I'm here to tell you about one of the many game changes that, of course, started this working relationship between Paul Anthony and myself, and that is, of course, Cubs fan Han.
All right, let's go.
If it wasn't for Cubs fan Han, we wouldn't be a part of the CFH network. And being a part of the CFH network is something that both Paul and myself hold very dear.
Oh, that is not depressing.
If you haven't been and liked Cubs fan Han's channel yet, what are you doing? This man knows a fair bit about the game Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes.
Am I Mormon? Who cares about religion? This is Galaxy of Heroes.
Well, most of the time. He does some really cool things on his channel, and one of the many things you should be checking out is the top 25 for each month.
I fully expect that he will be the #1 character next month.
He also does live streams for Grand Arena, and and sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't.
I'm not going to make the same mistake I've made before.
And he provides second-to-none gaming advice for all of you guys.
Snowtrooper might deserve the proverbial shoe to be thrown.
So what are you waiting for? Go and give Cubs fan Han a like today over on YouTube. If you want more details, well, check it out in the description below.
Tournament is so much better this month than it was last month. Oh my goodness.
And as Cubs fan Han always says,
Han shot first.
Hello, everyone. This is Paul Anthony, co-host of the Escape Podcast. I'm sure you've heard Scotty's plea for donations to help with my wife Kristen and I with the medical bills that we face after Kristen's late 2018 cancer diagnosis. So now is never a better time than ever that if you could spare anything to help us cover the deductibles we are facing in this fight, please head on over to GoFundMe.com/Mrs. Anthony and make a donation. Even if you don't have the monetary ability to help, spending a few moments of your time, which honestly is our most valuable resource, to share it with a friend who possibly can, means just as much. That's GoFundMe.com/Mrs. Anthony. Thank you, listeners, for everything that you do.
This is Cubs fan Han, and you're listening to the Escape Podcast.
The Escape Podcast, the round holotable.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is the world premiere. Am I able to say that, Carrie?
Sure. Sure. You can say anything you want. World premiere.
All right. This is the world premiere of information for the Geonosis Territory Battle. I've been waiting for this for a long, long time. Carrie, the first question is...
Well, hang on, Paul. Before you get going with the first question, have you got your Microsoft Excel ready to go, my friend? Because you need to do some spreadsheets.
I need a spreadsheet. I absolutely need a spreadsheet. So my question is, are we going to get, can you reveal some of the GP requirements or anything? What are we going to need for this territory battle?
Yeah, so, okay, that's a good question. So I don't know which of this news is going to be the world first reveal, but I promise I will just keep talking until I'm certain that you have something that we are not announcing this week. That's how all of these, everything that we're saying is like in approvals right now. So I will say this, and also testing. So everything is going through testing, and so numbers subject to change, blah, 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 right? So first of all, it's, we've wanted to do another territory battle for a while. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of content, to make the battles interesting. Like, we don't want to just kind of slap stuff in there. Everybody, design team, art team, engineers, they have a passion for this game and they want to make sure that it's still special. So I'm excited because it's actually going to have a lot of really cool kind of special components. And to your question about the sort of requirements, like I said, subject to change, there is going to be a GP entry requirement, but most guilds should meet it. The reason is because it is going to be hard. It's going to be pretty hard. It's going to be harder than the Darkside Territory Battle. We're still kind of tuning all of the specifics, but the players of this game are, I don't know what to say. Like, every time we think we've made something so hard as to be practically impossible, it gets beaten, within minutes. And so it's not like we're trying to do that. Obviously, that's a very core group of people that do that kind of stuff. But we did want it to be a challenge, but we also want it to be a challenge in new and interesting ways. So there is a GP threshold. I think I'll just say that the current kind of working number is in the 80 million range. And so there should be guilds that have an 80 million GP or more will be able to get in. But then it's going to be pretty hard. So don't roll in there and expect that you're suddenly going to get 25 stars right off the bat.
So 80 million divided by the 50 people that are there. So your average must be 1.6 million. Just for those who want me to do the quick math.
Good. I was pulling open the calculator app because I thought you were going to ask.
I was doing the same thing.
You said this is difficult. Yeah. You said this is difficult, Carrie. Now, in your post earlier, or in the Q&A that was going on, what did you call this one? Barzo Trundy?
Yeah.
Okay. So So give me a second here. I want to say this, I said this last week on the show, but just to show people that I have no problem in saying this to your digital face, if you will. We originally called Ewoks difficult. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Okay, and so we then had Ewok C-3PO. Then we had Chewie, which was very difficult.
Very difficult. Yeah.
What have we already done? Significantly difficult. And then we had arduous for. So you went Polish.
I did.
You went Polish. Here, let me help you with some English words. Laborious, strenuous, demanding, exacting, stiff, heavy, painful, labored, trying, titanic, bothersome, troublesome, burdensome. How about this one? Backbreaking, not easy. I mean, just the words not easy. Worrisome, onerous, attended by obstacles. That was my favorite one that I read last week. Rigorous, Herculean, requiring much effort, gargantuan, uphill, Scythian.
Ooh, Scythian, I like that. I'm pretty sure I've said Herculean before, but also because I just like to say it a lot. That's like a lot of Greek references. By the way, like tip of the spear, which I'm still a little bit annoyed about. But anyway, it's like expression. So I'll just explain that to you because it is something we talk about, right? Is that how like every word gets picked apart? And I didn't know that specifically about the difficulty thing, I think, until after Chewie, when it was like, and actually, I think there was a thing where I said that we'd do a significant make good, and then everybody was like, significant. And so we sit there, people want to know why we don't post more like every day. Sometimes we're going back and forth about what the possible interpretations are of individual words. Anyway, so it became a thing internally when we noticed that people were kind of picking apart the relative difficulty. And we absolutely have a lot of English words that we have yet to exhaust, but it's very rare in any Q&A or anything where I want to come out and say no to something. As you may recall, the first Q&A, Top Hat said no to Porkins. And then immediately what happened, because like we never say no to characters because we're like, sure, why not? And for some reason, it was also like very late on a Saturday night. I remember it was St. Patrick's Day. We all came into the office because it was sort of like, we got to do this. And he said, I'm just going to say no to Porkins. I was like, fine, whatever. And then that week, someone made a Porkins Twitter account, and that person like every couple of weeks like messages me like, hey man, don't forget about me. Like, why do you hate me so much? It's hilarious, but I realize that the words I say have meaning, and so I try very careful with it as somebody who also just like blabs on a lot, as you can tell from this podcast, from my part at least. Anyway, so we rarely say no to things, but earlier in the answering of the questions, and I don't know, I hope this question and answer actually got posted, but somebody said, will you ever translate to Polish? And I said,
yes, that one did get posted.
Okay, thank God. All right. Otherwise, that would have been totally bizarre. Anyway, so I said no, because the reality is, as much as I'd like to leave the door open for stuff, the practicality of us translating into more languages is probably pretty low because we have a huge amount of text in the game. So it would be a very big upfront cost. And we're in 14 languages, so we kind of went broad anyway. And I said no. And so when we got into one of those difficulty things, I was like, what word should I use? And I was like, I'll just say muy difícil. It's, like Spanish comes to my mind sometimes. And then that's when Eric said, no, do Polish for the Polish guy. And so that's we went and looked it up. Yeah. So that's, I'm so glad that the deep cuts are making their way and totally segued off Territory Battles. I'm sorry. But anyway,
no, it's okay. I'm gonna segue back real quick, but I'm gonna go back from what you said. Now, are you saying that there may be a Porkins in the future, or is Porkins actually a no?
God, I try very hard with my language. Sometimes it's called, like, people will say I'm being legalese to never contradict myself. But you know what? Top Hat's the one who said no to Porkins, so I'm saying I want Porkins in the game. I don't know when I would like to see Porkins in the game. Shout out to the Porkins Twitter account.
There you go. So that is Carrie wants Porkins in the game. She's not saying no, but she's not saying yes either.
Squarely where he belongs.
It's a maybe.
Everybody else.
Well, I can just imagine the orange crew there of Wedge and Biggs all coming to the game, and also, Luke Skywalker as Red 5 leader, Gold leader. I could see all that happening too, Carrie. I could.
Yeah, I think it's important.
And also, you mentioned, and we talked about in the bonus episode last week how everybody goes towards. Everybody is picking apart words. In the bonus episode was because we had to record the entire show early last week, but then CG Crumb comes out and he puts out an article about ships. Now, speaking about picking apart words, and
this is what we did. Yes,
this is exactly what we did.
And Carrie, you might have seen my comment on Arnold's channel about this as well, actually, because I actually said this to him. He was banging on about some other weird ship that he was going to talk about. But go on, Paul. Go on, man. We figured this out.
Yeah,
we think.
Before you say it, can I just say one thing? There was definitely one sentence that was purposefully out of place.
Yes.
Okay, so he did show us some very good benevolence. Am I correct?
Mm-hmm.
And
That's not the only thing.
And negotiations will be coming or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's all we need to know.
Mm-hmm.
So, is that going to impact the territory battles? Boom, segue.
Nice segue. I think that if it looks like a duck and smells like if it feels like Clone Wars content, then it's going to have something to do with Clone Wars.
All right, there we go. Now this is the reveal. It is true. You guys may have put out information about the requirements for territory battles, but this is what we were given as our exclusive. Carrie, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Tell us about fighting the Acklay.
Yes. So you would have seen the Acklay. I think there's a teaser video that's coming out today, and by today I mean the day that you guys are playing or airing this. And the Acklay. This is what I was saying. I think I was alluding to earlier is that the designers wanted to take a look at the territory battle and not just do a reskin path. And so there were a number of aspects of it, designers and artists and everybody, right? I don't want to just give credit to one group, but the designers and artists do a lot of the legwork. And so for the artists, there was a lot of attention paid in particular to the Coliseum, the arena, and then the designers, and they work off each other and challenge each other. And they wanted to do something a little bit different. And this stemmed from, on Hoth, you get those elites, and it's sort of like a random number of elites, and sometimes on the later waves is more likely to have more elites. And one of the things that we learned from the Old Republic content was thinking about kind of offering mini raids of some way, which is something in between, like something in between an elite and an actual raid. And so if you think about the difficulty around the Malak event, that's kind of in the vein. I'm not saying the difficulty per se. I'm just saying like the mechanics of it. So the designer who designed the event for Malak, it designed the Acklay, and
Scotty, I'm sorry.
Just the event design, as in like the mechanics of the event, without getting into the controversy of all of the difficulty of acquiring them. And so he did the mechanics for the Acklay. It is going to be good. It's going to be Sith-like, if you will, and or arduous, if you. Oh no, we said arduous already. It's going to.
We already used arduous.
Sith-like is the one I remember from your list. And it is it's challenging, but it's also going to have other things to it. So again, with the caveat that everything is subject to change, he literally showed this to me on Friday as I was walking out the door. He, for the first time ever, you will actually see it's not just you versus the Acklay. You're going to see other people come in, because it is not just, one group versus one group. And there's a lot of fighting going on. And so there are going to be other people coming in and fighting the Acklay that are from the PvE side as well. So there's like kind of a circle around them.
Is this a simultaneous thing that's going on? Like not other
humans, it's PvE at the moment, but it's sort of like the first foray not into just 1v1. And it's really about the experience. I'm not suggesting that we're like, for the first time ever, we're going to have a mode where people simultaneously play, like Devil May Cry 5 or whatever. But it's more like it's not just a battle between you and the Acklay. There's going to be more components to the PvE because the designers are always kind of stretching it along the theme. One of the things about everybody on the game team is that we're all pretty hardcore gamers. And so, look, we get inspiration from all the other games that we play. But I will say is the idea of a kind of endless mode, which we just mentioned in the last post about the Territory Battle, that we're having kind of like real leaderboards for the first time. There is a competition that exists with our players, but a lot of it has existed informally because we haven't formalized the structure for you guys to actually compete. And so I think from both the PvP and the PvE side, we need to give you the mechanisms to be like, I am the best at this. I really believe there's a lot of competitive people in this game, and they want to see as much competition as possible, and I would like to give that to them in all formats, right? PvP, PvE. I'll give you another suggested later on when we're talking about pie in the sky stuff, game modes that we want to do, another kind of competition. So Salacious Crumb was one, another kind of competition, 2 teasers.
Oh,
excellent!
Yeah, and I like what you're doing there with this territory battle as well. I mean, like, because already in the squad arena, I mean, it's you v someone else and people from all over the globe. And something that I love to see that this is happening as well is that basically shuts down shard chat. So goodbye to that, which is awesome. And I'm not a fan of that, Carrie. I'm sorry, but my shard is horrible. And look, the other thing is that. It's going to be, your guild taking on everyone else, a bit like a territory war inside of a territory battle. This is really cool. I dig it.
The structure starts with, like we talked about, this is actually really good that you kind of tied those two things together, because I have been saying for at least a couple of weeks now, and there have been other answers in the Q&A and stuff about moving away from Squad Arena being the be-all, end-all. And that doesn't mean that can happen immediately. But there were a series of steps that we've taken, honestly, from the beginning of Territory Battle to move into some of that more guild play. And Grand Arena was really about making sure that personal competition is still alive and well, but it is about trying to move away from the one squad. And so for our plans, this happens over a period of updates and years and things like that. And it always feels to people like, why can't it happen faster? But the reality is, like, it will. We're working towards something, and we're always changing with what players want. For this territory battle, the first thing we wanted to do was make sure that people liked some of the playing around mechanics. There's going to be more nodes on this territory battle, and I'm going to skip to the inevitable question about the platoons, which is, it is going back to the random platoons. Is not good news that I can give on that. I'm sorry. Because the thing we did with Hoth was we were trying to graduate people out of Hoth. We wanted to get it into Rote. Now, I acknowledge and admit that I don't like the fact that what has happened is it's caused people to do this incredibly tedious, I'm sorry to say, Scotty, Paul, is it, which one of you is doing the spreadsheet?
Paul.
Whoever has to do the spreadsheet.
It's me.
So I'm sorry about that, because that was never the intention, and that's the reflection of how hardcore the audience is. And so it is going back to that, but I think we acknowledge that we need to do something about at least making it available like the day beforehand or something.
Yes, please.
In the meantime, what I will say is that this territory battle, we're moving away from, we're changing the values a little bit. So those combat battles, those individual fights, and there will be more of them, are going to be worth more than they were worth on Hoth. And so you may find that you don't need to spreadsheet it as much, at least not when you get better at it, because the combat is going to have more weight.
Wow.
Well, now I'm gonna this is where guys, everybody was waiting for this moment where Paul snaps. Well, we got it.
Go snap.
I'm gonna snap on this, because you are trying to get, is it going to be the same style where we're going for stars? Yes or no on that?
Yes.
Okay, so if you're going to be doing that, and the platoons aren't going to matter as much, they're going to matter to the smaller guilds. I mean, having to sacrifice your BB-8 back in the day was not easy for a lot of people to do. So, it's going to literally cripple some people. I wanted to run Grievous just earlier today, but you guys took my B1 battle droid. Even though I knew it was coming, it sucked. But I mean, if there's any way to make it easier for the officers to be able to, even if we can see ahead, just a plan. You can make it random, but let us see ahead. That's my plea from a veteran territory battle officer.
And that was one of the reasons why we did it on Hoth. Again, maybe albeit late, but we got a lot of feedback from officers about how difficult their lives were. And like I said, I don't think we understood the degree to which the planning was going to be a problem. And so in terms of how much time it takes, right? I think, a lot of what we were thinking was like, look, people are going to get them or they're not going to get them. They're going to contribute or not. But the idea that's like, nobody do anything until we do this. And then you're logging in multiple times a day.
It happens all the time. I spend an hour on my lunch to do, when it was random, I spent an hour on my lunch figuring out, typing in all the names of these people, having to drill down on every single darn Geonosian to figure out if it was Poggle or Sun Fac, for the love of Pete. Put a name on the bottom, please. But, just being able to see who's coming, that would make our lives a lot easier for those of us who love our spreadsheets so much.
Yeah, I mean, that's whenever we come out and talk about the game, I want to be as honest and forthright as possible. That's the thing we haven't solved yet. So we're going to frustrate you probably for a little bit more. We are definitely, it's one of those things where there's still just a little bit of time left for us to figure out if there's anything we can do. But the thing I won't change, that I don't want to change, is the decision, the choice that you have to use the platoon or not. Because the reality is that those platoon and to segue into something that's a little bit, I think exciting, is that we're changing kind of the mechanics of those platoons. The platoons are now going to use that summoning tech that I mentioned, and they're going to be able to summon units. And so far in testing, people really like that instead of the abilities that we had put in before. So it's a new thing, right? But I don't mind the choice. I don't mind the fact that you're I really want to use this squad as a whole squad, but you made me put that character into the platoon. I would say I didn't make you do anything. It was a choice that you made, my friend. Let me interject here. So the platoons will now be summoning an additional unit. They're not going to be, pulling, saying, oh, these guys can't regenerate anymore, or this gives you an extra attack. It's the platoons will give you I'm guessing, this is me speculation station right in front of Carrie. So these platoons are going to be summoning, I'm guessing, progressively better units to fight alongside you. Is that true? I think that's a very fair speculation.
Okay. All right.
And so they're going to be summoning units for you. And so there's a choice. So I do not mind, even if players don't like having to choose, I don't mind the choice. What I do mind, and what I do think is a fair criticism, is the frustration point that comes from you having to sit down and make a spreadsheet. And there are a number of things about this game. I mean, I'll be honest, before we put in squad management, I used to have, I'm sure many people had, but I worked on this game. I had an Excel spreadsheet with all my characters on it, where I was trying to figure out which ones I was going to use for which, which squads I was going to put together. And that just seems like something that we should address, and we plan to address. It's just back to my earlier thing about time. Is there's so many things we want to do. We want to do new features for old school players. We want to do new features for new players. We want to do quality of life. I think I won't speak to other dev teams, but it's always been a priority for me that we spend at least 25% of our year of work on quality of life features out of respect for the investment that people put in this game. But the older it gets, the more it's like, oh crap, maybe we need to spend more time on that. And so balancing between new and old.
Can I just jump in here for a second? And congratulations too on that latest quality of life update too. Something that I really, really love is that now I'm no longer waiting for 2 minutes to sim the daily, the daily rewards and daily gear and the challenges. I don't have to wait. It's 5 seconds. Bam, 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 and I'm loving that. And hopefully trying to get my Zeta mats to come faster as well on a Monday and a Sunday, which I love too. So congratulations on that, Carrie.
Thanks. Again, it's like there's so many of them. And the problem is that one was, we want to do them. It's not like we're holding out on them, right? We want to do them whenever we can. But there's also just a degree to which there's limited resources. And so we've been talking about the Platoon problem for quite some time. In fact, back in a lot of what I did in the past year was started lurking in certain Discord channels. And so for a period of time, I lurked in a few guild channels and other channels, I'll just say, where I was watching people coordinate, right? And there's just the reality of what you think of when you come up with the idea for a feature and then what you work through in development. But there's a whole other thing when you then apply it to scale, right? Where you have millions of people playing something and you start to watch the practical application of it. And it was really not ever our intention to make it frustrating. And so the difficulty with the Platoon piece is everything we've wanted to do. We wanted to do something where it shows you how many people in your guild have an eligible unit is a lot of work. It's so much work. And so we want it to be something that asks you to build up your collection. That's why there's a random component, but we don't want it to be frustrating. And so we don't have a solve for that. It is going to be frustrating for a little bit. My commitment is that we're going to try to work on that as soon as we can. It's in some way. Yeah.
The solve for that would be, just to let us plan. Now, are these the platoons, are they still going to be worth territory points as well, or are they only support?
No, they'll be worth, and none of this has been finalized, but they still, most of the territory battle, with the exception of the summoning tech and some of the boss battles and the sort of the number of different battles and stuff, that's all new, but everything else is the same. Mechanically, it operates exactly like Hive. It's just that we're starting to play around with some of this stuff and try to make it feel a little bit easier. So it will be very familiar to you, but the gameplay should feel different and interesting.
Hey guys, we're going to take a quick break from this to put a little bit of a disclaimer before this next question. Before this next question begins, I want to let you know that Carrie reached out to me after the following discussion, and some of the details regarding platoons has changed. Stay tuned after this question to hear the update. Is it still 6 slices?
It is not 6 slices. It is 4 slices.
Okay.
So
of those 4 slices, are the 4 slices are you having it in a way where the first 2 are going to be set and then the second 2 are random, or are you doing random all the way through?
Random all the way through.
My God, Carrie!
To start, it's not yes, I know.
I'm just loving the conversation, guys. Keep going.
I know.
Scotty, she's breaking my heart.
I know. If I can make you 90% happy and 10% happy, I think I'm okay with that. But I don't want it to stay like that. I really don't. Like I said, we probably could have chosen to not do anything different with this and kind of reskin Hoth and then done the Platoon thing. And maybe some people would say, and that's what I would have chosen of the 2. But I'm hoping that you enjoy it so much that it doesn't feel as painless until we can get a solution that works for you.
So apparently my reaction to the news that we just heard prompted some discussion within CG about what to do. I can confirm that they are revisiting the platoons on the new territory battle. The exact details are still being discussed, but Carrie is pushing to make this easier on all guild officers. So you said it's 4 slices. What day of the week does it start, or is it planning to be started?
I don't think we figured that out yet. One of the things that we've been doing recently is running the calendar by some of our internal testing groups, which I know I say internal testing, I mean like players that we have in kind of Slack channels. We ask for feedback.
Right.
You know, because everybody has opinions about whether or not they want something over the weekend or not over the weekend.
Not over the weekend.
Right. The big thing, I think, is trying to minimize anything layering up on something else with attack phases or planning phases, right? Because that's where it gets like doubly frustrating. So trying to be very, very conscientious of that and move away from that while asking people to give us feedback. That's been the key. The crazy thing was, despite the fact that everybody was like, please, 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 why did you change the territory? Remember we changed the territory wars and had one over the weekend, and everybody was like, it's awful. And all of the channels by which I get feedback, everybody was like, I hate this, from the hardcore players. Participation in territory wars went up across the board. There's lots of ways in which we make decisions, and sometimes it's because we listen to people, sometimes we look at what they do, and sometimes it's just a factor of time. And
you can't please everybody.
That's Nerf Wars, of course. Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah. But Carrie, I mean, I love the fact that there is a new store which is coming, though, as a part of the territory battles. Can you tell us anything about the new store?
So you do, because I felt like, to be honest, whenever we tell people there's a new currency, it sort of rehashes the there's all these old currencies about, that, and like, why don't you just put stuff in that store? And I mean, I feel like that should be clear, but the reason is because we want people to participate in the new stuff. So there's going to be new stores for both the Grand Arena Championship and the Territory Battle. And the dogs, the Muppets are fighting. And they're going to have all of the new gear piece, right? The new final slot gear that takes you up to G13.
So both of them are going to have them then. Yeah,
you're going to have to participate in PvE and PvP.
Fantastic.
I like that it can be done through PvE. That's awesome for me. Let's touch on Gear 13 real quick.
Well, I just want to throw something else out there before we do. In these new stores, before we go to the to Gear 13, in the new stores, will we also find shards for Shark T, the Genosian Brood Alpha, and Wat Tambor?
Let's see. How shall I answer this question? Let's say TBD. I mean, Shark T is currently a marquee.
Yeah.
So probably not, in my opinion.
So probably not. And then the others are going to roll out pretty close to how Captain Han Solo and Rolo rolled out. So no, but I think that there will probably be shards of something. I don't know. We'll have to see.
I have a. I think I figured it out, but that hasn't been announced, so I can't talk about that one.
All right.
But
I just want to talk about. I just want to say that there might be some relevance to what's happening here, perhaps.
I can't say anything at all. So say nothing.
Okay.
I don't have a handler with me to pull me out of the off the phone with a cane. Usually that's what happens when I'm on Reddit. Is Crumb is standing next to me with a cane, like the old plays. You know what I mean? Pull me off the stage.
You need that. You need that
song.
Come
on, they'll play.
You need the song. The "Hello, my darling. Hello, my baby."
Right. Exactly.
Paul, go to Gear 13. Let's talk about this.
Yes. So, Carrie, Gear 13, I want to, I would love to find out what color Gear 13 is. Can you share with us what color it is?
Sure. Okay. You know what? Sure. But I'm going to tell you a little story. It started.
Is it white with no pips so everybody thinks it's old?
No. No, it is an escalation. There was a very lively debate about Gear 13 and specifically what that looks like. And I realized that there was some confusion. When we said Gear 13, we mean literally you level up to Gear 13. But we won't have any pieces in the 13th tier at the moment. But that's when you get the frame, is when you hit, level me up to 13. Right. And so there was a lively debate about what we could possibly do, because the gold it's pretty big, and we show that frame in a lot of places, and so we're running out of visual space in the UI. And there was a meeting in which I'll just say that I just said, just make it fire and rainbows. I don't care, just make it better and more, kind of exaggerated. And I'll say it's one of those. It's not rainbows.
Nice.
Oh,
red.
Okay.
Red.
We finally get the red.
It's going to be flame colored though, so it's going to be on a hue.
That's so
See,
cool.
I would have went. I would have went. And forgive me for saying the word that caused so much joking last week, Scotty. I would have went Kyber.
Oh yeah.
I would have went that little shiny.
Yeah.
Wait, what was the joking around Kyber?
Okay.
I missed that.
Yeah. So I'll explain.
Scotty.
I'll explain. In Australia, it's Australian slang. Kyber actually means your ass in Australian.
Oh.
So we've got Kyber crystals coming out of our backside, which is fantastic, and I'm loving that.
That's really funny. Yeah, that's really funny.
We love our ass crystals here at the Escape Podcast.
Well, that's the other thing is we just got like a new system in place in the office where it will show on the screen whose meeting is coming up. Like it'll be like, meeting in this room from 3 to 3:30, and it's this person and it's this meeting. And what it does is it pulls in the name of the meeting. So I started calling all my meetings Carrie is the best. And so when I walk into the conference room, it says from 3 to 4, Carrie is having a meeting called Carrie is the best, which I just think is funny. But I did that because Top Hat had scheduled a meeting about the Sith Assassin refund, and it truncated to Sith Ass. And so we acknowledge that not everything gets named perfectly all the time, and sometimes just like have fun with it.
So
but Kyber was not on purpose. We got that from Lucas. Right?
No, of course you did. Yeah, Lucas actually
exactly.
did that. Yeah, Lucas did that. So yeah, when I'm watching Rogue One or I'm reading the books and they're talking about the Kyber crystals, it's the funniest thing in Australia.
Funny.
Yeah, in Australia it's the funniest thing. But I do have to ask you though, Carrie. I don't know if you can reveal this, but what sort of buffs are we going to be seeing with that Gear 13 extra piece? Like, is there going to be more health, more speed, more what? Can you tell us or no?
Can I tell you? That is a really good question. Actually, don't know if I can tell you.
Okay. So that's a no.
So let's say no. Yeah. Well, and to be fair, I think it's because one of the things that we have that Gear 13 piece in testing right now with some of the players that we have on like really internal testing stuff. And we're getting a lot of feedback on that, a lot of feedback about what it does to some characters and certain others. And there will be, in some ways, it's like, look, you have to strategically choose who you're going to level up to get that piece, right? And that's that RPGs, right? Like you're progressing along, this game path. But there are some little shifts, little tiny oops here and there. And so we're trying to be thoughtful about it. And so I'll say, it's some stats. It's some cool stats.
Okay. Let me point this out real quick, Scotty. I want everyone to rewind about 30 seconds and listen that Carrie said there is testing going on. So the next time that you're complaining, do they even test?
Yeah.
Listen to this show right around this mark. They do test. They're doing their best. So get off their ass.
Get off their Kyber. No, but the reason why I asked you that, Carrie, is because, the first character that I'd be looking to gear up to Gear 13, because of all the Gear 12 plus stuff of what that does and gives you all the extra health. You know where this is going. We're in the Clone Wars content. Grievous. Oh, brilliant.
I think she has the droid disease that Grievous has.
Brilliant. Well, I like this. Well,
and on that note,
we'll let Carrie catch her breath, and we'll come back with more in just a moment. And we're going to do a brand new segment with Carrie today, and it's called Hard Quiz. Make sure you stick around. This is the Escape Podcast with Scotty and Paul, and we'll also tell you about this great giveaway that we've got as well.
You're listening to the Escape Podcast.
everyone. This is Paul Anthony, co-host of the Escape Podcast. I'm sure you've heard Scotty's plea for donations to help with my wife Kristen and I with the medical bills that we face after Kristen's late 2018 cancer diagnosis. So now is never a better time than ever that if you could spare anything to help us cover the deductibles we are facing in this fight, please head on over to GoFundMe.com/Mrs. Anthony and make a donation. Even if you don't have the monetary ability to help, spending a few moments of your time, which honestly is our most valuable resource, to share it with a friend who possibly can, means just as much. That's GoFundMe.com/Mrs. Anthony. Thank you, listeners, for everything that you do.
Chaos Modding Mayhem is the premier remodding service for the game that we all love, Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. With some of the most affordable rates in the industry, Chaos will rebuild your roster from top to bottom and give you consultation on where to go from there. Chaos has a 100% satisfaction guarantee and lots of useful additional services, including a full cleanup of your mods, loadout pages, PvP plans and more. Contact Chaos today on Discord at all lowercase Chaos number 0127. That's MIKAYAS number 0127 or at MchaosMods@gmail.com. Chaos Modding Mayhem, the official remodding service of the Escape Podcast.
Do you enjoy Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes so much that you want to help shape the rankings and advice given to the community from bots like Scorpio? Chaos Z-Man is looking for new and experienced players alike to participate in polls to help make our favorite game even easier to dominate. Contact Chaos Z-Man on Discord at KAOSZMAN #6288. Or stop on by the Zeta Valuation Discord channel to sign up. If you aren't sure about the one I'm talking about, check our description on your podcast device below or in the YouTube info, on the Escape Podcast Show Links channel, and more. Come be a part of the community, one purple mat at a time.
The CFH Network presents the Escape Pod Cast.
The Escape Pod Cast. Hard quiz.
Welcome back to the Escape Podcast. You're hanging out with Scotty and Paul, and also joining us inside the Escape Pod, we have abducted her, and I'm pretty excited about this because she's still with us right now. We're talking about CG Carrie, and CG Carrie, you know, first things first, this is what we're going to call our nice little new segment that we're going to call Hard Quiz. This is where we're going to quiz you on a couple of things and put you under the lamplight, if you don't mind. We're just going to crack down the shutters a little bit in the Escape Pod and make sure that we've got everything ready to go so we can put you under interrogation.
We're the ISB.
Yes.
Yeah, we're the ISB now.
That's right. Yeah.
And
Right.
don't forget, like, because we are the ISB, we do have neuralizers. So if you say something wrong, that's fine. We'll just wipe your memory.
The dog is trying to break her apart, her out right now.
So first things first, I guess, you know, me being an Australian, I'm not to lead this one here. Me being an Australian, our currency is a lot weaker than the United States. And, you know, when I see all the YouTubers and everyone else saying, oh, you know, just get a $10.99 pack. Yeah, well, that actually equates to a $30.99 pack in Australia. $38.99, I think it is over in the New Zealand. Japan, I believe, is up there as well, around the $28 mark. The UK would be probably about $15, I'd say, to the United States dollar. It might even be cheaper. I could get that currency wrong. But have we ever thought about, you know, reviewing that in the pricing structure so that it's the same across the board? For $10.99 in the US, it's $10.99 in Australia, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, that came up somewhat recently, and I was very careful never to say anything that I don't know 100% sure, because so I went and asked a bunch of questions to Central EA, because, you know, we don't take the money, right? Apple and Google take the money, and then it gets routed to a central platform team, and then it eventually, you know, kind of CG is involved. And what we end up doing is we actually just set the dollar amount in the US dollar pricing. And Apple has a pricing tier plan. And so you should be seeing this across all games on Apple devices, which is if it's $9.99 in the US, there's a conversion to other countries. Now, when I looked into this, because I wanted to be sure that I was factually accurate. I believe that Google does not have the same thing, that you can set different prices. But for us, there's always been a concern about precedent of establishing a different pricing structure by platform. Because we don't want to say, oh, this is cheaper on Google versus Apple, and then upset either of those partners. And so we just opt in, and then we just copy over whatever that pricing tier is. And I triple check that. That is how it works. And so there's nothing actually that I could do, unfortunately. But I think, as I was saying to you, I recall for whatever yonks, it's been like, you guys have just a bad deal on games in general. It's a pretty expensive hobby to have over there. And so I'm sorry about that. I don't know what to do. You should rise up and something. And so I don't know then what you do, but something.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, we'll take on Apple next. They'll be on next week's show of the Escape Podcast.
Great.
Can't wait for that. The way we're looking at you, we're going to resurrect you, Steve Jobs. We're coming back to you. But
it's across devices too, though, right? Like your Steam prices, your game prices, they're all just rough, man. Yeah, I'm sorry. It sucks. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. Well, the next thing is that something that you can look at is that here in Australia, we're kind of known to our American friends as we're in the future. It's like we've jumped in our DeLorean and we've gone up to 2055 and we're already there. And something that we absolutely love is when you guys release marquees or there's a new bit of content which comes to the game, we tend to be the first to get it, and we tend to have a bit of fun with that, and we can share screenshots with our guildies when they wake up at about 10 p.m. our time and say, guess what, guys? I've got this shiny new character. Ha, ha, ha. But we changed that last time around, and it was at 2 a.m. in the morning, so we copped it for the first time. Is that going to be a thing that we're going to see now, that it's going to stay at 2 a.m., the marquee character, our time?
It probably is, although it may not be 2 a.m. It may be even worse. It may be like 3 a.m. or later, because as you recall, with Padme, there was a little bit of an issue, and that's because all the people upgrading Padme was happening at the same time as the Territory Battle was flipping over.
Yes.
And so there were a lot of events being written to the server. Yeah. So we need to deconflict those and not have them at the exact same time. So for the longest time, it was absolutely at midnight here, partly for that reason. It was like a full day to day here, which put it at a good time for you. And a bad time for the U.S. And I think the community is not going to be shocked to say that, like, recently we've had some issues, and it's shaken my confidence a little bit in terms of, like, we spend so much time testing something, there's still a problem with it. And so I would say definitely until we get very comfortable with it. The reason we moved it was we moved it to a time where we're in the office. And so if we put a marquee out and there's an immediate problem, we want to have people in the office. That's not to say, as you pointed out, 700 years ago when this interview started, just kidding, I'm talking so much, that I'm always working. Like, there's a degree to which I literally am, I am the first, with the exception of some really tech ops heavy stuff, I try to be the first person that gets called for any emergency so that I don't bother people on my team until it's a real problem. And it sucks if it happens at midnight. Because if it's a big problem, the chance of me doing anything about it is pretty low. If it means I have to call people in and they're less effective and they're asleep and all of that. And so it's really about making sure that we can put it at the right time.
And
that being said,
I guess the pay would not be very good. I'm sure that EA would hate you for that, calling them in at midnight. They're working overtime.
Oh, yeah. I mean, most of everybody's salary, so they all work hours for free. Sorry, that's not a good thing.
No, that's how it is in salary world. I get it.
I mean, it is. It's the bonus. It's that huge bonus you get at the end of the year for all those hours of overtime.
What bonus? It doesn't happen in radio.
So I'd say that for sure. I would say that also, though, we are very, very conscious of the world clock, and we do spend. So while obviously we can't make a good time for everybody, we do want to make sure that things are available for the full duration, no matter what time that they start.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so on that note, which I do want to throw out there, on that note, being on the world clock, which is great that you guys are susceptible to that, and you're thinking about that. So what shiny new toys are we going to get first in Australia then next?
You mean just what are we doing next? You're trying to get exclusive right now?
Well, I mean, we know that Title Update 16 is coming out. Is there any shiny new quality of life that we haven't seen yet? That's I think it might be released already by the time that this airs. But is there anything you could talk about with the quality of life that's coming with 16?
No, I don't think 16. It's not that we don't do quality of life in every update. Obviously, the first one that we do of the year, that kind of February, March time frame, is where we do predominantly quality of life, and then we try to do quality of life events kind of throughout. But I would say for the most part, we don't have much beyond the whole Territory Battle and the whole Grand Arena Championship. And so there's not any specific little quality of life things I can think of. That doesn't mean there aren't any. I just can't think of any.
Right. So in terms of, I think you answered this earlier when we were discussing the Grand Arena in some ways, where I asked you about the territory wars and the like. Is this your response to moving? Obviously, you want to move people away from the arena, which means no more shard chat. And obviously, that could also mean no more power creep.
Sorry, it's a bit of a sinister laugh there. Yes, the individual power creep. The Muppets are they want to battle right now during the hard quit, which is the wrong time for you guys to get into a little Muppet war.
Distraction.
That's right. Exactly. So, okay. So the squad arena thing is a goal, right? It's we're working towards that, and there've been a number of things we've done over the past year to get to that place. We're not there yet, right? It's shard mobs still exist, and there's very much the ecosystem of the game in which crystals come in and out, and it would be very difficult for us to change that massively. But we're working towards it slowly, and I think we're going to see how people respond, because when we do a character that's not meta defining, then they're like, why isn't this character meta defining? And so it sometimes feels like a no-win situation. But
a la Grievous just recently, but yeah.
Correct. I mean, absolutely, right? And I know that everyone was upset because one of the designers said on a podcast that he'll exceed expectations, which I think was fair for that designer at that moment, and maybe not fair given the zeitgeist around that. And so that's on me. But I definitely I want to start to kind of set people up for look, we really are trying to flatten it. And that's why Grand Arena Championship's going to have all the new gear. We haven't finalized all the rewards, but there will be crystals. I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me on it. But yeah, there will likely be crystals. We want to move people that way. Okay, so power, same thing. We want to get to a place where it's rock, paper, scissors. There are over 170 characters in this game, and there are many, 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 many more of you than there are of us, which is the problem that MMOs have had for a long time, which is that your players just start to figure out to do stuff that if you had 100 years, you couldn't test all those different permutations. And so we are moving that way. I think Malik is still going to be very powerful. Sorry, he's going to be, trop difficile for a long time. For a while, and because of how punishing and difficult it was, and so we don't want to just go, just kidding, this new marquee's gonna stomp him. And also, sometimes we try that, and then people figure stuff out, and we have to figure out how we deal with that. So it's just a lot to factor. So our moving the power will continue to move up, but we're hoping to flatten it at the top a bit. So it's not so much.
Well, that's we reached out to our Patreons and asked, is there stuff that you want to ask Carrie? And one of the ones, Macias is one of our, he's our official remodder of the Escape podcast, but he's also a really good friend and a great Patreon of the show. And he asked, is CG aware of, and do they have plans to address the comical level of dominance that Malik brings to 3v3? And so I'm thinking that's why 3v3 kind of was was pushed away from the territory war aspect because of how Malik and all that can be. But I mean that this whole thing of going broad with Grand Arena, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, is why the Grand Arena championships are coming along, to take away from the Squad Arena version of power creep and spreading it across the roster instead of just this one uber team.
Yeah. So, all right, I'm going to take you back in time, let's say about a year ago, a little over a year ago, when the Sith raid came out, and Treya was there weren't dominant metas beforehand, right? But Treya was, I think, at least in my perspective, she felt more dominant than some of the previous metas.
Agreed.
And part of that, okay, good. So I'm not talking crazy.
No.
Part of that was because of how long it takes to get her, right? She was at the end of the raid, and we knew that it was going to take people a long time. Pursuant to our offline conversations, some people on this very podcast don't have her 7 stars, and
that's true.
A little bit of a joke to you, but I don't have her 7 stars either. So it's more of a joke on me because I don't have her at all in my guild, because we can't do heroic 5th raid, which out of context sounds crazy, but anyway. So let's keep moving on. So then we did the Old Republic stuff, the light side companions, and the vision for light side to dark side was always up front. We actually were thinking about doing Balance Revan at the same time as well, but we thought that would be too much Old Republic. Lol. And so we put together this plan to get all light side companions, to get Jedi Knight Revan, that nesting doll. And it was a lot of work to do that. And so we wanted JKR to be very valuable. Anyway, that begins this path where each one of the next ones was subsequently more work. And so we felt like, well, we needed those things to be the value of those things to be real. Simultaneously, last year, again, just over a year ago, is when I started spending a lot of time talking to players. And some of the players that I talk to every day, and there are people in this community who I literally talk to every day about the game, who say things like, this new character coming, like, I don't care if they're not number one character on defense, it's all that matters, squad arena. And so the plan for Grand Arena, the plan for Territory Wars was actually initially, and battles, to be quite honest, was about making the whole roster more valuable. But the problem with territory battles and wars is, as a guild event, in some guilds, maybe not in your guild because I know you guys are hard asses, but in some guilds, people can slack off and get rewards, right? Everybody else does the work.
Yeah.
And so there's room to hide, right? I mean, again, to be honest, not to just like talk trash about my own live game account, but it can't count because I can't be in competition. But my poor guild, I barely do anything. I don't get my 600 barely ever because I'm so afraid that I'm giving them an unfair advantage for anything. And so I'm grateful they haven't kicked me out. But people could hide. And so we wanted Grand Arena to be a place where people couldn't hide. And Grand Arena Championships being with leaderboards and stuff, it really, really, people who want to compete are going to be able to do that, and they can't hide behind somebody else. And so we've been trying to address this simultaneously with this increasing power, give people other modes to do this. Even the Territory Wars, like playing around with those crazy abilities, we were really trying to get to a place away from, we had that tough conversation earlier about platoons, in which I can't give you a fluffy answer. But one of the reasons that we kind of threw a spanner, as some would say, into the works with Territory Wars was because we wanted to take away from the difficulty and the time and the trying and the hardness. And so we're like, let's have some fun here. But my point is that, like, the plan for Grand Arena Championships and all of that was to do that. Now, with all those changes, one of the things that we heard from the test groups that we talked to a lot was, I don't like the Territory Wars rule sets. And I think they liked it at first. And like I said earlier, participation with some of these changes actually went up quite a lot, especially in the segments that you probably don't hear from a lot, like Reddit and stuff, because most of our players are not in these channels or talking on Reddit. We have many, many players who don't interface that way at all. But all segments, they went up, right?
Yeah, the whole Reddit. Reddit. Our listeners are only a small subset. That's the thing. Not a lot of people understand. It's such. It's such a tiny percentage.
Well,
but even on your forums, that's even a tiny subset of all the players.
Guys, I'll make a suggestion if I can. And the only way that you're ever going to fix the power creep is by introducing the 3 Zeta Gamorrean guard that we all want.
Yes, correct. He's going to be the best character in the game, definitively. That's my decision. Like, that's going to be the last thing I do is put Gamorrean guard triple Zeta in the game. He'll destroy everyone. Malik. Everyone.
And he can
sound clip that, internet.
And he can solo the Rancor. He can solo the Rancor on his own. Love it.
That's right. Yeah, love it. I would like to continue to look at the power creep thing, but I think that's a part of difficulty of live games. But the joy of live games is like we want to make changes, but as soon as we make a single change, people don't like change, and so it's like, how do you make changes so slowly that people feel good about them? They don't feel like it's being yanked out from underneath.
I am going to really quick because I will be amiss if I don't get this in here right now. One of our moderators channel, Zed, just wants to because of what you just said, that type of thing. I want to read her comment. When I asked for the comments in the Patreon chat, she just wants to thank you for continuing to push and evolve this game that so many people love and doing it with class. So I mean, right there, what you just exhibited, perfect class, perfect way to do it. So thank you on behalf of Zed and all of our moderators and helpers in this.
Yeah,
so
that's very sweet. Thank you, Zed, and thank you for saying that. I always feel like I try to say this, and it never comes across as anything other than whiny. But we care a lot. We really, really, really care, and I am just the mouthpiece for a team that cares so much, and I feel honored. Like truly honored to work not only on the game with such a fantastic IP, it's so fantastic that basically it's becoming my entire back for the rest of time. Not that that's the only way to define fantastic, but anyway, but also that this community is incredible, and the things that this community does for each other and lift each other up and help each other out. And one of the stats that I do in our presentations internally is I have a couple of stats that we have about our players, but one of the stats that we use is the number of hours spent in Galaxy of Heroes is greater than the number of hours spent in the opening weekend of any trilogy of Star Wars movies. So you can pick any trilogy, and it doesn't have to be a complete trilogy. It could be any 3 Star Wars movies of your choosing. Pick the number of hours that people spent watching that in the theater for the opening weekend. More hours have been spent playing Galaxy of Heroes.
Wow.
And we do really care, and sometimes I know it looks like we're bad guys, and sometimes we have hard conversations and tell you things that you don't want to hear. But we care and we try, and so I thank you for sharing that, and thanks to Zed for saying it.
That's brilliant.
Now,
and look, I do want to ask you about something else that we have been asked about as well. And look, in terms of the people in our Patreon chat, they also want to know about Macias in particular, but also Going Nerdy and Deadpool Kyle and a few others as well. They want to know about mods and what's happening there with the mods, because especially with that Malik team at present, they feel as if you've got like a 1 speed faster, then you're basically game over, is what they say. Now, I don't know if that's true or not because I don't have a Malik, but Carrie, can you answer that to those guys that are asking about that, about the mods and what's going to happen for the future of mods?
Yeah, so when we redid mods, called Mods 2.0, we plan for growth in that space. And so while power creep is a real concern, while we do worry about all of that, I think that there is an opportunity for us to even things out as we level up through mods. Now, I say that because the growth mechanism was always intended for your investment in mods to continue to move forward. And I know that there are still people who don't understand mods, as well as certain others. And it is absolutely the defining factor at the very, very tippy top of gameplay, right? And so what I would say is that we have a strategy for mods, but to the point kind of earlier is we want to be very cautious about how often we extend kind of move the flags, if you will, because we know that people spend all this time investing in something and we don't want to get there and then we're like, just kidding, here we go, move again. Now, part of that is progression, that's RPGs, but also part of that is respecting your investment. And so we do hope at the upper end of gameplay, like we see with a lot of players, that when you have everything maxed out, that your game is now about mod gameplay.
I agree. I like that, 100%. And another question that we've got here is actually about the guild grind. The gear grind. They say that that's one of the big bottlenecks of the game. Is there something that we're going to look at in relation to the bottleneck of the game? Some certain pieces are getting put into the daily challenges as well, like the MK5 stun guns and things like that, Carrie?
Well, I wouldn't commit to where any piece would go specifically. And yes, look, my dog does not like that. She's like, please commit to where the piece is going. But what I'll say is this: yes, it is about increasing the inflow of some of those other pieces, and over time, like I said, things that happen kind of slowly. You'll see some pieces that were pinched. Like I remember when sim tickets were pinched for me. In fact, before I worked here, the very first thing that I spent crystals on was sim tickets. And in hindsight, I'm like, well, I wasted all my money, right? But like, I needed that at the time. And then last year, I was in the middle of, you may notice sometimes that like things that we do in the game are my whim because I'm having a problem in my Alive account. I was so pinched on purple ability materials, right? I am not pinched on them anymore.
Omegas.
So the idea is, and Omegas. It's Omegas now, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I envision that will change, but the thing about it that is hard to then draw a parallel to other games in this space is that most free-to-play games have some kind of consumable economy, right? Especially on mobile, where you have troops that are depleted, or let's say like, wow, there's a constant tax, which is your armor gets damaged, right? And you have to pay a currency tax to continue to use it. And so we don't have anything like that in the game. When you get shards, you get a character, you get the character. You don't like deplete the character. You don't get the character for a week and then it goes away. And I'm proud of that, because I actually think, despite when people are feeling unkind or angry, that we often hear from people that it does feel like a game that you can truly play free to play. And like I've said before, almost 1,000 people got Malik without having ever spent $1. Obviously, more people got him who had spent a lot of money. But that is something that we do want people to feel like you can play the game for free, without stuff that like depletes. That just means that as stuff gets harder, it costs more. And I know that is the pinch feels bad. It's almost weird though, right? That it's counter to the fact that everyone says, I only need one squad. I only care about my squad on defense and squad arena. Well, then great. That squad has all of its stun guns, right? Like you don't need any more stun guns for that squad, do you? And so there's that constant push and pull where we're trying to make more squads viable without making it feel like, oh my God, I need, 700 Carbantes. And so it's a balance. I would say that gear will always be, difficult and hard, and the better it is and the harder it is, it, will continue to be. The other thing is we keep adding modes to the game with new rewards. And so when people say, why don't you redo everything in the old shops? It's like, well, because you're sitting on, 700,000 galactic war currency, and we've added 3 new modes and shops where you can gain stuff. We haven't taken rewards away when we add a new mode, right? And so it's that weird kind of icky place to talk about.
What about adding, the stun guns are the big stun guns, and mostly the purple materials or purple gear stuff. That to me is the
10 and 11 gear is where the pinch is.
Exactly. And why not putting a permanent node on one of those old shops instead of, just always making it random? But, to me, I don't have a problem in refreshing a gear shop and spending some of that currency. But when you charge 1,400 crystals for a purple piece, but for a gold piece you're only charging 700, that to me, I have made a personal what I don't know the word for it, but I will not ever spend 1,400 on a purple piece. But I don't have a problem with going for a gold piece for 700. I love the gold eyeballs when they're in the store, but I will not go for a stun gun.
Yeah. So, and as is your right, like that's the crux of it, right? Like you can go, farm away, and it will take a while to get it on all the characters that to get all the characters you want it on. Like that's the part where we are doing this little dance that we do, right? How many characters do you use actually for real? And obviously we're pushing you to want to use more in Galactic Grand Arena Championship. So I get it. The pricing is an interesting thing. There's a little bit of a push and pull in game development studios, especially on free-to-play games, where there are people who kind of run numbers and try to figure out what is a viable business model. I mean, literally, they just do that. And then there's like the designers and people who are like, I just want everyone to have everything for free because it would be awesome. And I love making games and I'm so happy. And so there's like a push and pull. And you can definitely see some of both. That's why the games, both appealed to free-to-play and non-free-to-play players. I think for me, I would never object to people saying, I don't want to spend money on that because it's too expensive, as long as they have another route to get it. It may be slower than they'd like, but I think as long as we can have something there. And on the random thing, just to say it, not what appears in the stores, but like definitely on nodes and stuff, we're making progress as we move forward. We're trying to do everything we can to hopefully at least make stuff feel good. So that 50-50 pack that went in where it was like, it's a good deal for the thing, but then you also had a chance of getting a better thing. We're trying to, So it's about, I'm not saying it's only about the psychology of it, but it is about making sure that stuff feels good. One of the things I was so frustrated when I started was, I think it was ships had, it was a chance of getting the Zetas. It was 0 to 2. And it was like half the time it was 0. And it was like, that's a terrible feeling thing. And I say that not really remembering for sure 100% if we got rid of all of those. But it's like, let's just at least start with, I don't care if it's 0 to 2. Then just give everybody 1. Don't do 0 to 2 because 0 feels like crap. And so, for us, it is about making sure that things are clear and that people feel good. There is a component of randomness in all RPGs, right? Like there's a reason I've run, dungeons hundreds of times in WoW. I'm trying to get that one thing procced to this one thing. Will you ever release the exact percentages of each of the random rolls that we can get, like gear pieces, like character gear
shards?
On nodes?
Yeah.
I won't say never. I would say we looked into that when we were looking into revealing all of the pack odds. And
which, by the way, I did pull a 330 B1 battle droid. Thank you very much for that.
Did you pull it like when you already had were you almost all the way there? Or did you pull it?
I was halfway there. I did pull a 100 droidica alongside of it.
See, I mean, it is. The odds are the odds, and they're not tailored, and they're not random, and they're not targeted, and they're not nothing. They are the odds, but
with you putting it that way, never tell me the odds.
Right, exactly. Adorable. I often say to some of the whales I talk to, I say that that luck is probability taken personally, right? Like they're just the odds, and everybody's like, I know what you did. You made it so I couldn't get these characters. Like I don't know who you are. I'm sorry. But to your question, will we ever tell people the gear drop rates? It's so much work. I'm not saying that's an excuse. I'm just saying it's a lot of transcribing, and and it is something that we've looked into. It's just a ton of work. I think we could at some point. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's on the docket, to be honest.
Will you confirm that the odds are the same whether you do 3 battles or 10 battles?
luck is probability taken personally. They're flat.
There you go.
Yeah, there's no tailored odds. It's not like I need any more excuses for people to yell at me, so I'm trying to minimize that.
Hey, Carrie, look, we do have to, to wrap up this segment, but look, we do appreciate you being, unless, Paul, you've got one more, have you?
I've got one more because she was talking about, this whole Salacious B. Crumb and other stuff.
Yeah, my teasers.
Things?
Yeah.
Yes. Give us those teasers.
Yeah, so this is like definitely in like hypothetical land in terms of like there's no plan to reveal these anytime soon. But I'll say that 2 features that we've been talking about for some time. One is a conversation about real-time battle. I may have mentioned this in the Q&A, but our GM, the original EP on this game, John Solera, is like a huge proponent of doing something in real time where you can go in and actually kind of can fight, and then you don't have to rely on
sandpit mode.
On what?
A sandpit type mode where you can test your characters.
Well, no, I mean actually like live combat, so you don't have to rely on AI. Right? So it's like I would fight you and you would choose and I would choose what we do against each other, and there's no AI component.
Yes.
That is something that we are looked into for ages. It's a tremendous amount of tech work. And one of the things that always gives me pause is that so many of our players, play this game at all kinds of hours and they have to drop it suddenly, or, they're playing it in the bathroom or whatever. So it's something that we talk about a lot. And I would say that I think we're very interested to know what the appetite is for it, because it's a lot of tech work to get simultaneous play that feels really good. So that's one. The second one, the Salacious B. Crumb comment, is something that I'm really, really keen to do, which is we know our players are good at the game, and we know that they're good at different numbers of characters. And one of the things about Star Wars is there are a lot of characters in the universe that aren't necessarily, they're not even non-combatants, they're like never anywhere near a battle. And I've had these thoughts around something kind of like I'll call that like name that tune mode or something, which is basically like, yeah, we know that you can do 5v5, but what if I said I'm so good that I'll beat you with 4 characters, and then that 5th slot I'm going to drop a character that if I win I get whatever it is, double rewards, depending on which character is, what the theme is, but basically I'm using up a 5th slot. So if I'm really, really good, maybe I decide to go in with 3 actual combat characters and 2, let's call them bonus buff non-combatants, right? Where it's like Salacious B. Crumb rolls in there, and if I win with my 3 versus your 5, I get double rewards. Again, no work's been done towards that, other than we're having that conversation of like, what would people think about that? Because there are a lot of cool Star Wars characters that we could pull into that.
Wow.
That I think would be really interesting.
That would be awesome.
One last question. Last question before we get out here. The puzzles. Should we be expecting a puzzle anytime soon? And are the puzzles officially sanctioned?
Okay, so I don't know when the next puzzle is. I didn't ask Crumb. You have to ask Crumb because that's his baby. And one of our engineers Crumb started it, and then one of our engineers got involved with him, and I think he used to write like code breaking software for something. So he helped kind of amplify it up to the next level. So are they officially sanctioned? They're 1,000,000% sanctioned by me. I love it, and I'll say that there's been 1 or 2 times where if somebody in the SWGOH events Discord got a random clue from a stranger, like maybe once or twice, that was actually me trying to like push someone over the edge.
That was you.
I'm not saying that I do that. I'll just say a lot of the devs are paying attention, and we love watching this happen. I am amazed at how quickly, like, we take internal bets on how quickly you guys will solve it, and it's almost always beats that. In fact, I thought the Malik one was surprising to me because I figured you guys have figured out so many harder things. I was like, that last little piece.
Yeah.
I was surprised. But anyway, all that is to say, yes, and in fact, Lucas, the one, like, and again, I don't want to speak for all of Lucas, but the dev relations group that we speak to, they have like the Lucasfilm Games team is the ones that do basically approvals on all of our content. They love it. They think it's awesome. And so it's sanctioned all the way to the top as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, the bees have left the hive and the handkerchief is blue. And for the love of Pete, the bees leaving the hive just totally threw me off because of the bee. I was like, okay, take out the bee. And no, it wasn't taking out the bee. That was the phrase.
But the fact that you guys remembered that phrase from like it's I know that Crumb at least pointed in some way, but the fact that you guys even had that from that long ago is so crazy to me. And then it was like, these are orange,
I was the one who remembered it.
Oh, that was you. Okay,
that was me.
Yeah,
he's one of our puzzle masters too. Yeah. Hey,
I know.
Hey,
I was one of the puzzle masters trying to figure it out. I was up till 5 a.m. Central Time trying to figure out this darn bee leaving the hive.
And and I was the one that was trolling them too, saying, I think I figured it out, and it was a photo of Cubs fan Han. So I was trolling them with that.
That's so funny. So I think one of my favorite moments, because it was one of the earliest ones. We were watching it live though. Was the Jedi Revan thing? I think it was it wasn't the first one. I think did Django have one? But anyway, it was one of the first ones, and it wasn't even pre-planned. But the whole thing was because that ciphers they only have 25 letters because they're a 5x5 grid, and so there's historically no J, and
there's no J.
Had the J, and then there was an I. And I'm watching it, and it's like, oh God, why can't they just figure out the J-I thing? And then I was like, oh my God, this is an Indiana Jones quote. And so I was like, never in my life have I felt so good about being like my love and passion of, certain things like Indiana Jones. I get to pull this in now and dropping that into, I think it was the forums. And then people, like somebody was just like, holy shit. I mean, it was so fun. I love that. I love it so much. It's so far beyond my intellectual power that like it's so fun to watch, but sometimes I just can't even fathom how you guys do it.
Well, Carrie, we would like to. We can't fathom how you guys do it at Capital Games, and that's being 100% honest. Like we seriously can't. We really appreciate you taking the time out and being with us on the Escape Pod cast, and we've got a great giveaway as well from one of our Patreons, and I thought that we might do this right now, Paul. We may as well. Let's do it. Where 5 of our listeners are actually going to be walking away with something, Paul. We should probably let Carrie in on this so that she knows.
Yeah, Carrie, you introduced this.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is part of the reason that I got a chance to talk to you guys at all, like in terms of just knowing about this, and so I'm hoping that everyone who listens and everyone that we can get to come pay attention will take the chance to participate in this. And so you're announcing it at the moment of recording, not at the moment of this actually going live.
Correct.
That someone very generous has given you these goodies in the game. It's going to amount to $5. $100 worth crystal packs in game for your participation in the Kickstarter to help Christy, and I'm so excited. The GoFundMe, sorry, Kickstarter. My God. Well, I mean, let's get her to to do something, and then we'll Kickstarter that as well too. But so it's a GoFundMe for Christy. The link, and I'm sure everything will be in your channel. And it's such an opportunity. I love the fact that our community is so close that that people are helping each other out here, and I would urge everyone to participate, if for no other reason than to get some crystals, but for the very good reason to help out Christy, who's amazing from everything I've heard about her, and a real trooper and a rock star.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so what it is for what's going on is that if you go to GoFundMe.com for the next week until the final moment of next week's show, from the time that this airs until the end of next week's show, for every $5 donation that you make to GoFundMe.com/Mrs. Anthony, what we're going to do is your name will be added to a spreadsheet, and we will randomly draw 5 people.
There it is, the spreadsheet again.
Yes, the spreadsheet. only one person. You can only win once. So if you end up getting your name drawn twice, I'll draw another one. But for every $5 that you donate, if you donate $20, you'll get 4 entries. For every $5 that you donate, you're entered to win one of 5 vaults. I mean, we're giving away 5 vaults. Thank you to this Patreon that wishes to remain anonymous. And
thank you to that
pretty
Patreon.
Much it.
Yeah. Thank you to that Patreon. A big thank you to that Patreon. And, you know, and I got to say that, look, guys, you know, dig deep, help Paul out. You know, we know that Christy's, well, at the time of recording, she's still in hospital. So, you know, please, guys, dig deep.
Tomorrow she's going to have to be intubated for a bronchial biopsy. I mean, we don't know when she's coming home right now. So that's the difficult part of this, but we will get there, and all of the donations go to take care of the deductibles and everything that we're experiencing right now. But, you know, we're going to get through this, and we'll have Mrs. Anthony on as well as Jody, you know.
Yeah, well, that's right. Yeah, she'll be on the show. But I'll tell you what, though, guys, I've got to say a big thank you to CG Carrie, who has joined us on the Escape Podcast. Carrie, we will let you go. We will fire the Escape Pod. We're going to launch it right now and let you get out of this ship so you can go back to work. And Carrie, if you will be quite so kind,
push the button.
Don't mind if I do.
What's going on? Where the hell are we? Paris?
Thank you for pressing the self-destruct button.
Attention! This is Colonel Sanders in forward command. Abandon ship! Abandon ship! All personnel proceed to escape pods. Close down the circuits. Evacuate the self-destruct mechanism has been activated. Abandon ship! Where is it? Where is it? It's gonna be here. Out of order! Even in the future, nothing works.
This ship will self-destruct in exactly 10 seconds. Counting down. 10, 9, 8, 6.
6? What happened to 7?
Just kidding. 3, 2, 1. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Hello, friends. This is Thaddeus from Going Nerdy. The Escape Podcast was filmed in front of a live studio audience full of tweaked out murder bears.
Sit, Ubu, sit. Good dog.